Hey everyone, welcome back to the axle building series here. Took a short vacation to go out to Lake McConaughey with the wife. 98 degrees, beautiful, running on jet skis, having a great time. The very next day, back here in Colorado, and it's 31 degrees and snow, go figure. So anyway, I was hoping to be a little bit further with this series, with the build series, but I ran into some issues with figuring out brackets. So there are a lot of bracket kits out there online. They are not all created equal, I'll tell you that. A good Jeep guru buddy of mine came over and tried to talk me out of these brackets altogether. He told me to just abandon it, and we kind of walked through as to why, and I'm going to show you those things of what to look for. And I've kind of compromised. I'm going to abandon part of the bracket kit. I'm going to continue to use the other part, mainly because I spent over $200 for the kit, so I need to do something with it. That doesn't make it right, but I can fix a lot of those deficiencies that we identified. So big props to JJVW out there on the forums. The guy analyzes everything, and thank God, because he really enlightened me on a lot of things that I quite wasn't paying attention to, or I should say, I wouldn't notice until after I get the axle back installed. So the nice thing about it is I have this stuff still out on a stand. I can kind of fix some of these things now, and then when I mount it up under the Jeep, then I'll have a better idea of where I'm at. So I'm going to show you all that next and what to look for. Okay, I have my cardboard mock-up taped up to the outside of the Artec bracket, which I've tacked in place where it's supposed to go. Now, if you look at this, a lot of people are going to think it's a minor difference, and I'm telling you, I think it's a major difference, because when you play where it matters, such as rocks, then that angle difference is going to be huge. If you look here, that angle difference is very steep compared to the stock type bracket, which is what I based my mount off of, as a stock bracket. This angle is going to slide over rocks, so you'll be able to continue your forward progress. Rock's going to slide right down it, your axle's going to move up, you'll get over that obstacle. This bracket right here is so steep that when a rock hits it, it's going to stop your axle, you're going to be stuck, you got to back up, renegotiate that obstacle. I do think that's a pretty big difference. So, plus I have almost a half inch difference of clearance right there, which is substantial. Coming around to the other side, you can kind of see the difference of that angle I'm talking about. So if you look right at the cardboard here, your angle's there. You're gonna move up and over rocks. Here, it's so steep, it's gonna hit a rock, and it's more likely gonna stop. Not all the time, I'm not saying these brackets are gonna cause you to get stuck every time, but it does make a difference. I think what Artec could have done to improve this bracket is do like the stock bracket. Move this out of the way. So the stock bracket has this 1 inch drop right here. And if Artec would have dropped this 1 inch down, then they could have maintained that same angle as stock. And they could have even taken up that extra half inch of meat hanging down. There's plenty of room with the control arm in there. I've already checked that. And they could have made a fabulous bracket. But talking to the Artec rep when I called, they said they wanted more weld material right here so you could weld it to the tube. You're not worried about taking your brackets off. Now, I can tell you from extensive four-wheeling experience, I'm not worried about putting that weld there, because I've not had problems with other brackets, even stock brackets. You have your sides here. As long as you put a skid plate there, it's going to hold it together pretty good, and you're going to get up and over obstacles without bending them. And you know what? If you do bend a bracket, then you could replace it or make your own. On my last axle, I made my own brackets. They're 3/16 just like these, or actually these are 1/4 inch. Mine are 3/16. I put a plate here, maintain this stock angle on it, and I've not had a problem with them at all. Let me go show you. So this is my stock bracket, homemade, 3/16, and you can see you will grab rocks at that location I was telling you about, and you can see how it slides over. A lot of scrape marks from it sliding over, and it's exactly what it's designed to do. Okay, so on my last axle, when I put this thing together to put up underneath my Jeep, I went ahead and made my own lower control arm brackets because I didn't want to wait in the mail for aftermarket brackets. I wanted to go to 3/16, which would make it stronger, and I wanted to kind of do my own skid on the bottom. And these things have been awesome. They held up very well. I based it off of the stock bracket dimension. So what I did here, I'll show you, made a cardboard cutout, and this may be in one of the previous videos. I made a cardboard cutout, based around what the bracket was, got it really close, dialed it in, got everything all set up, and then I went and I cut out 3/16 steel, made my own bracket parts, making sure to keep my left side, my right side different, because in order to get your offset angle, the axle 2 part is going to be cut slightly different. So I did that last time, held up really well. This time I was going to go with a different bracket kit that included the lower control arm mounts, but after buying that bracket kit I realized those are not going to work for me, so I thought, hey, I'm going to go back and I'm going to make my own brackets again. It's relatively simple. It is time consuming, you know what, but I enjoy doing this stuff, so it's a okay, have the Artec spring perch burned into my axle already. But let me show you the problem I was having. So when you think about space on suspension, every little bit counts for a lot. So the stock TJ perch from the edge of the spring cup to the edge of their bracket is just about 3/4 of an inch, maybe slightly less, but I'm going to call it 3/4 of an inch and give it that. This one I've already trimmed up, so don't think that that's any different. Let me show you why. So the mount that Artec uses comes out in this one, this bracket right here, this gusset butts up against the sway bar link, and then this would weld into the spring perch itself. There'd be a little tab that's stuck out there and it comes out here. So they gusset up the sway bar link, makes everything nice and strong, but the problem is when that is in place, and this again, it's already cut now, but when that's in place, that's over 1 3/8 inches out to the outside edge of that gusset. 1 3/8 inches from that spring cup. Now the stock, again, let me remind you, is 3/4 of an inch. So you're talking a difference of 5/8 of an inch. 5/8 of an inch. How big is that? It's a lot when you're talking suspension, and let me tell you why. So when you put on heavy duty steering, your tie rod comes right through this general area right here. And when you're at full lock on the driver's side, that tie rod gets pretty close to that spring perch. In fact, on a buddy of mine's, it actually touches just barely. Now look at this sway bar link. I love these sway bar links in the sense that they're 3/8 of an inch, they're thick, they're heavy duty, love them for that. But look at all this room here where this sway bar, I'm sorry, where the tie rod is going to be bumping into. So when you think about that, I could probably trim this off, then I'm getting really thin through this area here, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to make that work. But the problem is if you go to a tie rod flip, this is definitely going to be in the way. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So while you look at the bracket and say, hey, 3/8 of an inch thick, it is built, it's beef, I get it, but it's going to get in the way of stuff. It's just an unfortunate side effect of people building things but not understanding exactly how everything works together. So now I'm sure you guys are asking me, well, God, if you don't like this kit, then why are you still using it? And the answer is partly because I've already paid for it and I don't want to waste, a little more than a couple $100, just let that go down the tube. And I didn't realize it until I actually already started working on brackets and getting things welded together. So it was a non-returnable thing. And to be honest with you, the brackets, the spring perch brackets, short of the extra length being out here, which I've already resolved, I can make these work now. So the other nice thing is over here, one of the things, let me find my other part real quick. One of the things that I also have to account for is where my steering stabilizer goes. I'm going to be installing Hydro Assist, and having a 3/16 thick bracket is going to be far better than the stock. I've seen the stock ones they get mangled and tore out of there. There are some other kits you can use that will reinforce that, and I get that. But since I already have these on here, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to use it, and we'll see how it turns out. You know what? If I got to bail on this axle, I'll bail on it. At this point, I'm kind of losing my mind with it a little bit, but it's good because it puts a good thinking process for me to go through and see why and how all these things interact with each other. And that's a good lesson for everybody in the sense of why do we do things a certain way and what is going to be the best, most optimum way to weld things on so I get full travel without things banging into each other. That's exactly why I'm doing this build series. Okay, so our next move is going to be to assemble the lower control arm brackets. I'm going to get those tacked in place on the axle in the stock location there, and I'm going to put this thing up underneath the Jeep so everything fits before I commit to burning them in, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I decided to make my own brackets, as you're well aware. A little bit time consuming, probably cheaper, easier, probably even a little bit more accuracy when you buy the laser cut ones from a good vendor. I get that. I chose to make my own. This is the route I'm going. If you choose to make your own, this is how we're going to do it. You know, you cut out all your pieces, but when you go to weld them together, take a control arm bolt, put it through, take a control arm bushing. If you don't have an extra bushing laying around, then you can take a piece of black pipe or something and cut it right at the width of what you need. In my case here, it's 2 5/8 inch thick. That goes there. Put this on. You can kind of see where I'm going with this, right? So we're going to get this all snug down. And what it's going to allow me to do is keep the bracket faces parallel to each other. And I'll do that before I burn in, and I'll show you why here in just a second. Make sure I keep all this stuff nice and flat. So just getting a little bit snug so it's nice and flat right there. Now when I go to put my plates on there, everything is parallel to each other. So when you go to make these brackets, you're going to know this plate has a slight angle to it, and that's because the bracket sits on the axle at a slight angle. So this makes up the difference for that. So I'll put it on the back side there. Now look closely here, and you're going to see that I leave plenty of meat there, so when you put your weld bead along there, you're getting good penetration into everything, and it's going to hold together just fine. My other ones have lasted me for God knows how many years. They got beat up pretty hard, and they could still go if I wanted to cut them out of there, but that's not worth it to me. So I'm going to take that, put that on there. That'll go right up against the tube. You flip it over, and then when you're ready to put on your skid plate, you take your skid plate, line it up. Again, I'm leaving material on both sides for the weld bead to penetrate both, and then you have that. And then when you're all done, you have your homemade bracket, and everything's good to go. Very simple process. I actually enjoy doing this, so I don't mind not paying money. You know, saves me 40 or 50 bucks, but I just enjoy doing this kind of stuff, getting out in the garage tinkering, so a lot of fun. If you don't have the time, buy your brackets. If you have plenty of time, you like doing this stuff, build your own brackets. It's your choice, whatever, let's have fun with it. Remember to take short welds of about an inch, so I'll do 2 welds per side on that bracket. That way it doesn't overheat or warp or anything. Make sure you got your temperature setting right so you're getting good penetration. Okay, here's where we stand as of now. We've already stripped the replacement housing, already got it cleaned up, got all the brackets on that I want to put on for now. I'm going to wait to put on my other, I need to put on my sway bar link brackets, and I also need to put on my steering stabilizer mount, which is actually going to be for hydro assist for me. But I'm going to wait to do that until I get this thing on the ground under its own weight. I want to see how everything's going to work with each other as far as interference and stuff. So this can wait. So now I have everything exactly the way I want it. Use the center line of my tube to make sure I'm centered between the frame rails, which I use this string to mark a center line. And what I mean by that, as I've shown you in the other videos, there's 2 points here that are consistent on the frame that go straight across from each other. Found the center line of that, which gives me the center line of the frame. Line that up with the center line of my axle, so I know my axle is laterally centered. Now, as far as being square to the frame, I measured from my center skid plate bolt to the tube on both sides. That is equal. To make sure that my angle of my pinion is the way I had it before, and the reason I want it the way it was before is because it lines up with my drive shaft, and that will prevent me from getting vibrations. I have that where I want it right now. With all that being done, I had to adjust my upper control arms out just a little bit, but everything else is good to go. So I should be able to get the rest of the axle done, slide it under here, hook up the control arms, and be very close to where my end goal is. Now, I'm not going to know where that's at until I get on the weight of the vehicle, or the weight of the vehicle on the springs and all that, and then I'm going to remeasure everything, make sure everything's exactly the way I want it. Once that's done, I can make my final adjustments. But for now, I think that I am ready to move on to doing the gears. I think I'm going to get my gears all set up. So we're going to do that. That's going to probably be a pretty long, detailed video, if not 2 videos on the gears. But once we get that done, then we have to press in ball joints. Once that's done, with the knuckles on, we're ready to get the axle shafts in it, get it back underneath the rig, and get everything dialed in. So this has been fun. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a pretty good learning process for me. I've done it on the ground. This is the very first time I've ever done it up on a lift, and it's cool to see it from a different perspective and see how things line up with each other. So my big thing is going to be getting this axle completely perfect where I have no interference issues. I have it as far forward as I can get. I have the right amount of pinion angle that gives me the best caster angle I can get. And if I get all that with no interference issues, I'm going to be a happy man, and that's the end goal, and we will get there. So we are off to gears.